We are talking with some grassroots Democrats today, and so we want to welcome Marjorie Asturias, Dr. Lou Blackburn, and also Jody Bland. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Glad to be here.
So let's start. How concerned were you while watching the debate about President Biden's performance, if at all? And what was your reaction to the national media members and some Democrats after the debate saying he should really drop out of his reelection bid? Marjorie, we'll start with you.
I think the next generation has a really good term for it. It was super cringy. I watched the entire debate, and my husband was sitting next to me, and he started out very poorly, but finished a little bit more strongly than he began. But by that point, I think a lot of people had already formed an opinion about the entire debate performance based on those first 5 to 10 minutes. And in terms of the post-debate analysis, I was not surprised that a lot of Democrats, both within the legislature, state legislatures all across the country, grassroots Democrats, were raising concerns that, frankly, we've been raising since 2020. This is not anything new. But I was also a little bit offended by some of the statements and positioning that top-level Democrats were calling those of us who were raising these objections, these concerns, as somehow being distracted. I was really offended by that, as if somehow all of that we had observed should just have been dismissed as just an off night. Because I don't think it was an off night.
And how concerned are you?
Very concerned. Concerned enough that I am seriously asking the president to reconsider his bid for re-election.
And Lou, what about you?
Well, I wasn't pleased with the initial performance, I'll say. I was pleased with the information that President Biden was putting out or trying to put out versus the rhetoric and everything else that former President Trump was doing. And I can see where, as we heard earlier, there may have been, he had a cold and he might have been a little bit medicated. So I can kind of see where that might have gotten in the way. But I think we need to pay more attention to the message that the Democratic Party is putting out. I think to change horses at this late, it's almost like telling the Republicans, we give up. We're going to put somebody in to practice for next time. But we shouldn't be doing that and just say, we're going to give up on Biden and just hope that we'll do better in 4 years.
And Jody, where are you on all this?
Yeah, sure. I'll start by saying that I agree that the Democrats need to face some accountability for putting President Biden on that stage in a reactionary way to early polling numbers. But that said, they don't fully shoulder the blame here. Had the Republican Party not nominated a traitor for their presidential nominee, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Mm-hmm. So this does go both ways. And in regards to what Lou was saying and the reaction of whether or not a replacement candidate for President Biden makes sense or not, I trust the president himself to make that decision. Joe Biden has proven time in and time out that he's a man of character and a man of integrity. And if he needs to step aside, I trust that he will do that if it's in the best interest of the country.
And Jody, just to follow up on what you said, so are you saying in a sense that if Republicans didn't nominate former President Trump, you don't think that Mr. Biden would have run for re-election?
No, I just think that the nomination of former President Trump brings a levity to this situation that may not exist otherwise. If Nikki Haley or some other Republican is standing at the precipice of the Oval Office, we're not as terrified about the future of democracy and the future of our country. And so that's where I think President Biden actually does well and did well in the debate, when he refocused and refocuses the picture around the gravity of this moment and the danger that we face with President Trump on the ballot, he did well. In a sense, he felt overprepared. He was getting into nuance, getting into policy details, and getting into things that Donald Trump will never even discuss with a straight face. So I think being more aggressive against President Trump and reminding Americans of the gravity of this situation will go a long way over the next few months.
So how concerned are you that former President Trump will beat President Biden in November? Lou, we'll ask you first.
You know, that's almost like a nightmare if we were to wake up and we have President Trump again. The things that he's been saying, the things that people are around him are saying, leads me to think that democracy is going to change. I think we're going to go down a very slippery slope that it's going to be very difficult to climb ourselves back uphill. I'm very fearful of Donald Trump being president again.
Jody, how concerned are you that, I mean, the polls have shown that Mr. Trump has widened a lead, at least nationally. How concerned are you about this?
We elected presidents based on July polling. I think the shape of American history would look a little bit different. So I'm optimistic that there's time to rebound. I think the president will have several opportunities to redeem himself. And I'm excited to see how that looks and to help change some of that narrative. But to Marjorie's earlier point, I think we've been expressing the concern about President Trump potentially winning since 2020. We knew he wasn't going anywhere, and he hasn't gone anywhere. So it doesn't really change the concern that I have. The concern is very deep and it's very heavy, and the future of America rests on re-electing President Biden or a Democrat in the event the president decides to step aside.
And Marjorie, how concerned are you about former President Trump winning and, at least for now, expanding his lead? I know it's only July. And what do you think should happen now?
So I was a very consistent, very active volunteer for the Clinton campaign in 2016. I went to North Carolina for a week for the election to knock on doors for 7 days straight, from morning till night, to ensure her election. And we all thought that she was going to win. We all know how that turned out. I am very concerned about former President Trump retaking the Oval Office. Anything could happen between now and Election Day in November. But the thing about anyone who has ever watched an elder grow old knows it is not something you can come back from. It is something that gets worse and accelerates over time. I am concerned with Biden's future performances in public and debates and interviews. I'm going to be watching eagerly in his interview this Friday on ABC News. I'm still going to vote for President Biden. I would hope that he really considers what's really good for this country moving forward, because we're not just talking about a moment in history. We're not just talking about November. We're talking about the next 4 years. We're talking about a country that under President Biden's watch has become more conservative, more polarized. People are becoming much more fearful about the future. And he didn't cause it, but there have been a lot of things that I've been very concerned about civil rights, about voting rights. And we really need someone who has the stamina, who has the force of conviction, who has the physical ability to be able to withstand a lot of the challenges that are going to be coming up that this country is going to be facing, foreign and domestic, over the next 4 years. So it is going to be a very consequential election. I am very concerned that Trump might triumph. Having said that, I'll do everything I can to ensure that we have a Democratic victory, whatever that looks like.
So right now, President Biden has insisted he's staying in the race. He's not going anywhere. If for some reason, he changes his mind before the August convention and decides to relinquish his delegates, then it goes to the DNC and the Democratic governors and Democratic leadership in Congress would weigh in. If that were to take place, who do you like for president and for VP if that were to happen? Jody, we'll start with you.
I think it's been telling that many of the names that you've heard being punted around over the few weeks have been pretty mum on this, because I think they're all rallying around the current president as it stands. I think it's a difficult uphill battle for anyone. Obviously, Vice President Harris is the natural fit in terms of name recognition and ability for folks to actually see some degree of a track record. As we all know, her polling numbers haven't been great either, and have oftentimes trailed President Biden's. For me, it needs to be someone who can come in and willingly self-fund and jump in quickly and hit the ground running. So maybe someone like Governor Pritzker in Illinois to lead the ticket. And from VP, I really probably couldn't even begin to speculate on that.
And Marjorie.
I have been following Gavin Newsom's career since he was governor, since actually he was mayor of San Francisco. I think he would be, as much as I would really love to see a woman at the top of the ticket again, I think that Gavin Newsom would be a really strong contender. And I also, I'm not sure that I could speculate on who the VP would be.
And Lou.
Could be.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. If Marjorie, did you want to finish the thought there? I apologize.
No, I just said, or could be.
Yeah.
And Lou.
I agree that it would be maybe expected that Vice President Harris will move up, but also can go along with the governor from California as being another option. Both of them are younger. Both of them have some baggage that they're bringing to the table right now also. But the Democrats have put ourselves into this situation. At some point, we're going to have to start looking at our side benches and see who is ready to move up and move up fairly quickly. Beyond this election, looking forward to the next election, if we don't find somebody younger, more vibrant, that can catch the ear, catch the hearts and minds of America, then we're going to be in the same boat next year, the next election.
And I just want to follow up on that one point. And that is, Marjorie, do you agree with that? I mean, is the Democratic Party, is the Democratic National Committee at fault here?
For the position we're in right now, or we're
Yes.
questioning President Biden's ability?
Yes.
Yes, but I would also lay some of that on President Biden's feet. I know he didn't officially say that he was going to be a one-term candidate, but it's time for a new generation to step up. I'm not even talking about President Biden's grandkids. I'm talking about his kids, about our generation. There is, to Lou's point, there is a very strong bench of Democratic potential candidates for president now, let alone 4 years from now. And I lament the fact, I mean, there's no point in wishing what might have been, but I lament the fact that we didn't start thinking about who could possibly step up and be the next generation 4 years ago when President Biden was elected, in the event that in 4 years we would be faced with this question now about President Biden's age, the fact that I'm a little irritated that we are reliving the same horrible nightmare that we were living in 2020, that President Trump is back on the stage and he is a strong contender. But because we can't turn back time, I would love it if they're already forming committees for electing a Democrat in 2028, while we're fighting for 2024.
And Jody, I'll let you have the last word on this.
Yeah, sure. Marjorie makes a lot of really strong points there. It's almost as though while we have such a strong bench of candidates, the party or the DNC perhaps has almost silenced their ability to
Yes.
garner the recognition that they need over the last 4 years. And that is something that I do lay at the foot of the party and the party leadership itself. We need to continually groom the next generation of candidates, but not only groom them, put them out in front of the public and let the public see who they are and get excited about them well in advance. So, hopefully we learn from this lesson as a party. Hopefully party leadership will listen to folks like Marjorie and Lou and other grassroots activists on these type of issues and position ourselves to succeed in a little bit of a stronger way come next cycle.
Mhm.
I did have one other question, and that is, I mean, the public is now waiting to hear who former President Trump is going to select as his running mate. And I'm wondering who would be the biggest concern? Could he name? Who do you think would be the biggest concern for Democrats? Lou, let's start with you.
Who else? Hoping you're going to call me last. I have not paid a lot of attention. I know some of the ones who seem to be vying for it, but my concern with the top 3 or 4 that appear to be vying for the position come across as being just a yes person, the type of person that Pence was not when it was time to certify the vote. I could see Trump wanting somebody that's going to go in and do what Mike Pence did not do, and whoever that is, that's another cringe for me. That's another nightmare to wake up from.
Jody.
Similarly, I don't think Trump's VP choice moves the needle in any meaningful way. As Lou mentioned, whoever the best yes man or yes woman may be is likely who he'll go with. But this election is, about the future of democracy, and it's Donald Trump against Joe Biden, and that's what we're facing right now.
And Marjorie.
Like Luke, I have not paid close attention to the would-be candidates, but the one name does stand out when I read articles about who's in the running, and that is JD Vance. And I would be very worried about JD Vance because he's young, he's energetic, he has name recognition, he is politically charismatic, but he is someone who he brings working class credentials. He's earned it, but at the same time, I think he's turned his politics do not speak to true working class values. And I think that as a yes man who has a hidden agenda, I think he'd be really dangerous, especially someone as young and ambitious as he is.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Marjorie Asturias, Lou Blackburn, Jody Bland. Thank you all so much. Really have a good conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.